Hello viewers and welcome to this preview for TT Isle of Man 2, Ride on the Edge, and we're going to be back on the edge looking at the progress that has been made since the first game. Isle of Man TT came out a couple of years ago and it was relatively well received. It was a wonderful model of the circuit, but it was one of those games that needed a bit more meat to the bones, and there was a few issues with the physics that people wanted to see improved. They're back now, they've gone back to work on the game, and they've put forward all the comments from the community to make sure this is the game that everybody wants it to be, and we've checked it out, had a first look. So we're going to be racing around the circuit on this video, and the next video coming up we're going to be having a chat with Davey Todd. He's going to be giving us real feedback, and we're going to be doing a full lap with him, checking out the improvements to the physics, improvements to the circuit, and his general feedback for him as a biker as well as a gamer, discussing what he looks at, reference points, tyres, tyre wear, degradation, mindset as he rides around the circuit. Also, we're going to be looking here a bit more detail at the modelling of the circuit as well. I visited the studio, Kiloton Studio, to see the work that goes into modelling the Isle of Man circuit and bringing it to reality. And we can see Stefan here, who shows he has a kind of a Google map system that is essentially connected to a model of the game, and they can literally go around the course making sure that manhole covers, that when they re-tarmac areas, which they do on a regular basis, within reason, they can keep up to date with it and have everything looking exactly as it should. Details on buildings, details on the tarmac, details on the pavement, trees, reference points, braking points, bumps, all of it here scanned, put into the game and made sure that it looks just like the real thing. Of course, the times of day return this time. There's a different lighting, a different look and feel to it. We also have variable weather. Variable weather adds a lot to the circuit in terms of the feel and, you know, in terms of just the general life cycle of racing around a circuit like the Isle of Man. The weather changes as you're riding around. Now, before you ask, there's no rain because they don't run during heavy rain, but we do have a range of weather conditions, and you'll see it here. Just gives the lap a bit more life. So racing around the circuit then, generally speaking, it's had a nice visual brush up. We're going to talk a bit more about handling later in the video, but it's also a good opportunity to talk a bit about some aspects. The bike moves around a bit more than it did on the previous game. That's something that we're going to sort of analyse and test as we go on in terms of the handling changes. The bike's a lot more fluid, it's a lot more loose, it moves around a lot more, it gives more feedback, and as we progress around the circuit you can see the changes to the weather, just subtle changes as we ride round, to the lighting, the look, flat out through these sections. I love these first sections in particular, just the commitment that the riders have to be able to do this for real. It never ceases to blow my mind. We'll also have some no comment videos coming as well, so for those of you that don't want to hear me talking, that just want to see riding, that's coming to the channel. And as well, I'll be looking forward to receiving your feedback. You can see here later in the lap how it's clouded over, variable conditions. Sometimes it will get a bit misty. You also have differences in air temperature, which can make a difference as well. And before you ask, in the bottom corner of the screen there is various elements talking about your tyres and various components. But I haven't unlocked all that because that's all going to probably be in the career mode at some point, and we're going to look at that in a bit more detail on a later preview. And also how weather conditions affect tyre wear. I think that's something that we're going to learn about, but you really need to put in a lot of time to optimise your line through the corners to really understand the bike handling and how it's moving around under you. Loving these high-speed sections, but we're just riding in clear weather here, and you can see how as you progress around the circuit the weather changes every section of the course, and it really just gives you that feeling that I've said this about rally before, but it gives you that feeling that you've been on a journey, and I really like the feeling of the journey of this track. It's funny, but I always find about halfway round I struggle with my concentration because it's so intense. And you can see here, clouded over a little bit here, but it gives you a very authentic sort of bluey feel as if a cloud has just moved across, and as you're riding, literally it will brighten up again, and you know, suddenly the lighting will change, and you know, it just feels natural, if you like, the look and the feel to the hills and everything. So you can see there, the game's looking great. I mean, the track model was great in the first game. The main thing was just getting that handling right. They've changed obviously the way the bike moves. It needs it's more fluid now, but the bike moves around a lot more on screen. So it's getting your head around what you're looking at. You're looking a lot further down the road, I find now in this version, than you were before. Before it was more instinctive and reactional. It's still got that reactional aspect to it, but you are looking further down the road in terms of getting your bike in. And I'm still learning the circuit. Note here, I'm riding the circuit without the racing line. I'm not actually used to doing this, so I'm trying to learn the circuit authentically this time. And over the next few weeks I'll try. There's still a few areas I'm crashing on. I just need to get my braking points. You need braking points a lot of the time. And you know, some of these long braking zones, you think I'm braking too early, and you're not. You know, you got it just right, but it feels like you're braking a mile from the corner. And again, you can see the clouds changing and the atmosphere of the circuit. It gives it a really authentic feel of racing rounds the TT circuit now like never before. And I think it's just wonderfully modelled. It's a great circuit. Such a challenge. See if we come towards the latter part of this lap, round the final corner and down that straight. I still have a lot to learn on the circuit, get my head back into gear, but having said that, there were just a few areas here and there I need to work on, but the times will come. I know that not using a racing line is challenging, but we're doing it the proper way. You can see here obviously that was from that lap, the various times of day changing, the various variable weather conditions changing that give it just an authentic feel, and it's variable, so this changes all the time, and of course depending on whether you set it to morning, noon or evening, you'll get different authentic effects, give you a bit more. But I in terms of the weather conditions and the temperatures, I've still got to learn about all that. We're going to look at that on a later video when I've had a lot more time to play the game. And of course it changes from the time you start a lap to the time you end a lap. It means a transition in the overall weather conditions. And of course this affects a lot of the circuits. You know, we're looking at a circuit here from the Super Hillside from the original Isle of Man TT game, and you can see here just how the same weather conditions, but it can affect you know, when some mist rolls in, it can just give you a different effect, and bloom effect, and the lighting's been changed. And also here you see a bit of comparison between the feeling of speed between the two games, and the fluidity of the bike and the way the bike moves around, and the animation of the rider. Lots of changes to give you that bit more feedback on the bike and what it's actually doing. And as you can see here, big differences to the lighting depending on the weather conditions. Also the weather conditions, we're going to look at those again on a future video. Now handling wise, what do we have? We had a few issues with the original game in terms of the bike oversteering into corners, and we'll have a look at that in just a second. But it took a bit of getting used to, the bike moving around more. And we just look at the original game, a couple of issues I had here was you turn into a corner too much speed and the bike would just keep going. That was one of my issues. Bumps that would just take you out for no reason. That happened a lot. That was just a couple there I showed, but I'm sure many of you have played. You know where the bumps are, but sometimes they still take you by surprise, and it's very frustrating. So Kiloton went to work and they said, right, we're going to try and solve these issues. And at the moment, I've not had any of the sort of oversteer bike issues at all. And we caught up here with Pablo, who is the physics programmer. And he went through the detailed gyroscopic and just incredible work that's gone into the bike physics this time to improve upon every aspect. That's not to say it's perfect, it's not to say there's not going to be still work to be done, and we're going to develop, and over the next 10 years bike physics will get more and more complex, but there are thousands of elements on the bike which they're working on to try and make it work in an authentic way but communicate. And as I say, you're controlling the bike rather than the rider in many respects, and the process of riding a bike is you're preparing for a corner, you're moving your body weight. This is a process, whereas now they've got to make that a fluid process where you turn in, the bike instantly goes where you want it to go. It doesn't understeer around the outside of the corner, but at the same time the rider needs to look authentic in the way he's sort of leaning into the corner, just so you feel like you're flowing as part of the action. And they've seemed to have made some progress in all areas there, but time will tell. Now, a lot of this video you're going to see is riding from behind the bike. This is how I ride. I'm not very good at riding on the bike. I'm actually more comfortable with the bumper cam, as it were, than I am with the handlebars. It's taking a bit of getting used to, because the camera replicates the head position of the rider, so the bike's swinging around under you, and I find that quite challenging. But you can see on the screen there some of the unbelievable amount of elements. There were menus that went on forever that changed elements on the handling of the bikes, and you can see again differences here between the first game, obviously new areas, tarmac, but the way the biker moves, just the stability is a lot more stable now. And throughout these different videos I'll be looking at the handling, the assists on and off, how that affects things, various types of braking, gear changing, just seeing how the bike performs differently, and testing some of the different bikes as well to see which attributes they have. But it was very impressive seeing all of that in action and the way it's come together from the first game. Again, there was another thing they've improved upon there. When bikers bump into you, you can bump into another biker now and not instantly fall off the bike. They've added a little bit of leniency here and there. I did find in the original game that opponents could just go into the back of you and knock you off your bike, so I was being a bit aggressive here. Slight touches you could just about get away with, but if you're too aggressive you're going to fall off the bike, and I was being super aggressive through here. I thought, let's do a bit of road rash, but again, hit a curb and you will fall off your bike. So don't think that you can just ride round recklessly taking everybody out, though I have taken a few guys out. The good thing is now is that you won't get instantly taken out. A few of you who played this game will know what I'm talking about. It meant multiple restarts on some circuits, or let everybody by and then take your time getting past them. Again here, helmet cam looks good. I mean, it's pretty intense when you're on board the bike. Put your headphones on, turn your volume up, and just imagine. I think that's the thing. Now, there were bumps actually on this corner. I don't know if we'll show it, but there were bumps here before as well that could take you out. You had to brake for the bump or line yourself up correctly. It's gone. The bike just takes any bumps now, or they've taken some of the bumps out, and it works in a much more fluid way. So that's working really nicely. And of course, all the courses have had a little bit of a touch up. You'll recognise this Tyrone course from the original game, though there are a number of new courses as well, and we're going to look at those on a future video, as well as a more detailed look at a lot of the bikes. Great feeling of speed, good being on board, all the bike in action, and I am gradually learning my way around these courses. The new handling and the way, or I say new handling, the new perspective for the bike is what's taking me a little bit of time to get used to, how the bike moves outwards and what I'm actually looking at to control the bike. So it's going to take a bit of time, but we're going to come back to that on a future video. Bike models are absolutely stunning, and we have a number of classic bikes that are going to be in this version of the game as well. We're going to go through this again on a later video, looking at these in more detail. Wow, lots of new content in the game there. Bike models, I always like a nice look at the bike models, and you can see here loving detail that's gone into these. Really impressive to see various components, how they're put together, and the authentic sounds that they've worked on to try and record those. Again, always a work in progress with audio. We're going to talk about that later in the video. You can see here a few of these bikes. I just like to take a moment to check them out, look at the details. Having seen some of them in real life, it never ceases to amaze me how graphics have moved on. And you can essentially educate people. You know, I hope they keep all of these models for future reference, because it's great that they've got them rendered in such high detail, and in a way that their own files are more detailed than even what you see in the games in terms of the LODs. So really nice textures, various elements, various details, cables. I think everything is rendered in with such passion. And so I caught up when I was at Kiloton with Clotilde, the vehicle artist, and she showed me the process of modelling the various bikes, riders, the details that people may not notice. The details, in a way, I mean, I look at these sort of ultra LODs, if you like. These are the super detailed models that games companies make, and then they make smaller versions with less polygons and less detail that go into the game that help improve the frame rates and everything else. But it's wonderful to see the original modelling that goes into it. You know, Each bike takes 3 to 4 months to put into the game. You can imagine how many high qualified artists and technicians there are working in the team to bring this together. And you see the collision points on the bike there, all the different collision points on how it works, and the different elements I asked about, the reference photos that they work on, you know, working with the teams to try and make sure that the bikes look as they should, that the sounds are as close as they can be within reason, and that's something we'll talk about in a moment. But also just the general work that goes, the passion that goes into each bike. You know, thousands of man hours that go into developing these various elements, and also the way the bike's put together as well, with different suspension systems so that it works authentically. And then you see the final bike model and you're like, wow, that's amazing. So I'm always impressed, never fail to be impressed by the workmanship that goes on in the studios, the voice of the people behind the scenes that don't always get noticed in YouTube comments, and ultimately then when you see the models that have been worked on appearing in the game, you end up with something that looks absolutely stunning. And again, you can see various improvements to the bike models here, and we'll look at these again in more detail another time. But great to see. I still marvel at these. I marvel at photo modes, I marvel at bike models and replays. It's always something I've enjoyed seeing how it's developed, and you know, just how far we've come in video games, that we've come from a couple of pixels on a screen to now what is effectively a perfect modelling of the bikes. And I hope that Kiloton keep all of this, as I say, in various reference files, because this is heritage right here. This is bike heritage. That, you know, even the material and textures, metal, stuff like that, all really well modelled. So I like stuff like this. I love a good reflection and a good bit of grass and trees and bushes. We love it. It's all about the detail in game development. And then I just marvelled at various elements, as well as the bike we were just looking at, how it's made it to the final game. Really nice to see. Let's have a listen to some audio on some bikes for a second, see how they sound. So various bikes sound very different. On board you get a lot more wind, whooshing sound depending on how close objects are. The bikes all have a very different note. As ever, sound is not something you just record a bike and then put it to the actual game. I know this is something that a lot of people talk about, recording. The bikes are recorded, but it's getting that sound right for each rev note of the engine, so it's authentically making the sound it should make for that note. And they're working towards that as well. Lots of improved whoosh effects and stuff like that, but overall I found it very intense. Some bikes definitely sound more aggressive and more, you know, angry than others. It's, sometimes it's finding the bike sound that sort of works for you actually. Some of the bikes, when you're at speed, and I note this in real life, you don't hear the bike. It's a lot louder for the people standing beside the racetrack than it is when you're on the bike. Sometimes it's very muted, you know. And one of the other key elements of the game is the career mode. Wow, lots of new stuff here. So there's various ways in which you can promote yourself to the Isle of Man TT. Explains that. Put your name in, your details, choose a bike, choose a relatively basic colour scheme to get underway. And then after that, you need to get your contracts, earn your sponsors, and work your way into it. Brand new menu system, brand new way to develop yourself as an Isle of Man TT rider. This brings so much more to the game element this time. This was a key aspect. So physics and handling was one of the key aspects that really needed to be improved, and the career mode. These were two aspects we highlighted in our review. We won't be looking at the online in this preview. That'll probably be much nearer to launch or around launch before we look at that. But this is going to develop a lot more. There's more tracks in the game now, as well as an open world area. You can kind of see the open world area on the map there. And this is one of the new circuits in Ireland here. So a lot of circuits in Ireland. I think there's 8 new circuits or something like that. I haven't got the exact numbers in front of me, but adds a lot to it. This is quite a high-speed circuit, and again, I was learning the game. You know, obviously, not a lot of time on it at this stage, getting used to this handling. So I'm still sort of waving around a little bit. Just speed up a little bit here as we ride our way around. The circuits start off quite high speed, get a lot more technical, and the laps are long. They really are challenging in terms of working your way around, and 2, 3, 4 minute laps. It's intense, right? I find it's very challenging. It's a challenging game, and so you're going to really need to learn those braking points and what comes up next. Sometimes the map gives you a good indication, sometimes not so much. So you really got to line yourself up for these corners. And again, I was late through both apexes there, but you can see there's tons of speed to be found. I just enjoyed the idea that at least you can go flat out. And then of course, doing well in races rewards you in different ways, different components, different contracts, different perks that are available in the game. All of this to be explored. So there's a lot to see here. I tried to squeeze everything into this preview. I thought let's get a hands on. You can see some of the gameplay map there, proper hands on, and record some of this, because the game is out at the end of March or late March, or maybe even around the 17th of March. I think we've got barely a month till launch, so we've got to get stuck into this game, find out what it's all about, and of course going through the various championships and races. Showing you guys a couple of the laps here. I'm working my way around, just still oversteering a little bit there. I was still sort of learning how to use the bikes. Various bikes handle in different ways, and so you need to do a fair few laps on a bike before you understand its sensitivity in its turning circle, its best line through a corner, and the perspective is different. Because the bike was dead center of the screen before, now the bike moves around a lot, and you kind of have to look at the biker's head as to lining yourself up with the corners now. It's a bit of a different process in that sense, but gradually it started to click more and more the more I played the game. But I did have to play the game quite a bit to maximise it. Here's another of the tracks here. Again, this isn't a circuit I was familiar with, and some of these circuits are long and tough. They're tough circuits. Of course, I'm still at an early stage of the game here, so I haven't upgraded my bike or used any of my perks, which will make it a bit easier when I do. But I was simply going in cold and saying, let's do this, let's give it large. And I was using the other bikers as a reference as to where to brake here. So as soon as I was seeing they were braking and turning, I was doing the same. But another thing as well I really liked about this was the lighting, the draw distances. Draw distances are infinite. It's wonderful to see the mountains and the detail in the distance and the way the weather interacts with it all. Really nice. See that, and this track actually goes to those locations again, so it's really nice to see them. Again, the sunlight, just that feeling of evening riding, really like that flow of these roads. Reminded me of driving in the Welsh Hills actually. There's some really nice flowing roads there like that. Nice roads to ride if the weather conditions are good. And just being progressive, following this guy in front. I had quite a battle with him over a few laps. I mean, this is, for example, a 4-lap race, and it's around, I think it's 4 minutes a lap. So these circuits are not short. There's some long circuits in the game that you're gonna have to learn, and they're quite challenging to maximise. They've got some really nice flowing corners. Some are much more technical than others, but all of them, feel relatively natural. Got to commit to some of these areas. I'm almost losing it there. I just slightly oversteered the bike. Sorry, went a bit unbalanced, and I just had to hit the brakes and hope for the best. But, yeah, that was a 3-minute lap on that course. And then back again, I think this is super hillside again from the first game, which is back again, but obviously with the new weather conditions, or variable weather conditions, just racing around on here. I was gradually getting better with the bike handling, understanding it more and more as I was working my way through this career. Just doing a short time on it to get my head around it, how it's all going to work, and gradually finding my braking points. Critical to find your braking points on these very slow corners, but the bumps, there were bumps in this next section, used to take me out. They've gone now. That's good. So I can't say there's no bumps in the entire game, and I can't say the bike's never going to oversteer, but it's never oversteered for me in the way it used to into the corner. And now we're going to look at the challenge zone, and I've not hit any significant bumps yet that haven't been my own mistake. So challenge zone, open world arena we've got here, which you can explore. And again, no idea what's going to be in this challenge zone yet. This is something which unlocked in the career mode, and again we'll look at this on a future video, perhaps a future stream as well. A bit like the WRC8 recently creating a challenge mode. This is something that one assumes they're going to build upon, and then obviously, like a lot of open world games, you'd find an area. I've cut out the loading time there, but you find an area and have a race. So here we are, then we're going to race this Ghost. And again, no idea where I'm going, by the way. I'm just literally looking at the map in the corner, and I'm thinking, let's just go flat. This looks flat. So I'm using the map to control my riding. You've got to be careful looking across though. Things can change real quick. So try to keep your eyes on the road. Use a bit of speed judgment. You can see there's a slowdown coming up. But let's commit. Let's take it. Slowing down. Just about making it. And not getting away with it barely there. I just about kept on the bike. In the first game I think you'd have been off. But it is a bit more generous this time with the handling. Of course, you could just go for a cruise, different times of day, exploring this area. And again, there's a lot to explore, but I'm assuming that you've got to unlock the things to do in the area before you see it in the final game. So we're going to wait for the final game to check on that. And do remember, I've not mentioned it in the video, this is a development build. This isn't the final game. There's still over a month of work to be done on it. So there's a lot of fine-tuning and bug testing and improvements, polish being added to the final game before it's released, and no doubt the development team will be hard at work. But sometimes it's just really nice just to go for a relaxed cruise, and that's just the point of this open world really, just to have a cruise round. I don't know if it's in multiplayer, but it'd be nice if it is. Lovely sunsets as well. So that's the end of this video. Part 2, we're going to have a really detailed chat with Davey, looking at the Isle of Man circuit in a lot more detail. Full lap of the circuit, as well as an interview with him and his career. I have a good chat with him about his career and how he's ended up here and mindset of bikers. These guys, I have heaps of respect for them, and it's good to have just a relaxed one-to-one conversation with him before going out and hearing his perception on the game. How he uses the game as a training tool. He actually uses it as a training tool, and it works for him. So it's not even debatable whether it works or not. It does. The gear changes are in the right place. Everything's feeling right, and it's just getting better and better. So, wow, was he good at it? I mean, you can see flying round. This is his lap, and he was on it. No racing line, obviously. He was just on it. And to see a biker playing a game in this way is impressive, because bikes have always been notoriously difficult to convert to the game console, or home systems in that way, to the world of video games. So finally a bit of a multicam. I know there hasn't been as much on bike cam as some of you guys may have liked in this video. There will be more to come, and I'll rope Kevin in to doing a bit of that as well. But I just thought I'd leave you with a little bit of this multicam footage here, racing round. Stunning, the new lighting, the look, the feel, the new physics hopefully will improve all the elements, and there's still studying to do there, but it's looking good so far. The career mode looks, again, we've only just played it for a short time, but there's a lot to do in there, as well as various improvements throughout. So I hope this has given you a good breakdown for an early preview of Isle of Man TT. First impressions are it's really looking good, and of course we'll have a review coming in the next few weeks, and I'll really break it down then, going into all the different aspects, what's been improved and where there's room for improvement, and discussing that with Kevin as well. But lots of content to come. Do let us know in the comments your feedback. Do like and subscribe. It supports what we do on the channel. And if you have comments, things you'd like to see, do let us know there as well. But that's it from me for now. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and there'll be more from me very soon. Hello beautiful, thanks for watching the video today. Hope you enjoyed it. Do like and subscribe, supports what we do. And also check in the description if you want to become a YouTube member or Patreon, support us in every way possible to get out there and get some awesome content. But that's it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Check out these videos, check out the site, and there'll be more from me very soon.